Hi everyone. Today we are starting Module G, and this part of the class is for those students who are taking the class online only. Those students who are coming face-to-face are welcome to watch these. They are welcome to do this project, but this project is not required for face-to-face students. This part is for online students who can't come in and use the machines. All right, so our topic is embroidery. What is embroidery? Embroidery is fancy needlework or trimming. Here on this samples, they're on the trim edge, okay? That is usually done by hand and usually involves what we call floss, embroidery floss. Embroidery floss can be cotton or silk. It usually has a shine to it. This is one way of storing your embroidery floss. They make cases, and these are plastic cards that you can buy at Hobby Lobby or Michael's or other stores. And when you purchase your yarn, you just unroll it. If you just try to pull it out, it just makes a knot. So we always unroll it. I like to do mine like this, so I remember what number it is. And you'll notice it's double-sided, but that's also so I can lay it out and I can see my yarns. So I know what colors I have to work with, okay? Embroidery, gold embroidery is first seen in early Assyrian clothing, and this was copied by the Egyptians, the Greeks, and the Romans. Also, each country in Europe developed its own style of embroidery, and you also see it in Eastern countries. There are other kinds of hand sewing that is also decorative. Most of those are called canvas work. Canvas work is something like this. This is a counted cross stitch. So when you have a canvas, this is a canvas, okay? This one, a counted cross stitch, is usually done on what we call a monk's cloth. And you can see really well here that it makes these little squares. And the cross stitch is actually making, I don't know if I can get this to focus here, little tiny X's with the threads. So this is all white thread that is little tiny X's. There's a little pink there to show a wrinkle. And then the brown is done in a straight stitch to just show the outline. When you get a cross stitch kit like this, it usually comes with some instructions that tell you, it tells you what colors to use. It tells you where they go based on, so 420 is this heart, 356 is this dot. And then I've gotten in the habit when I'm working to know that I have done that color. I color it in with a pencil as I'm working. But then this one also had all these outline edges, which show all the outline edges on the hair. This is one I started for a friend's daughter. You can tell how old it is by how brown it is. Yeah, her daughter's about to have a baby. So yeah, I started this a long time ago, moved a couple times. It was in the bottom of a box. Oops, sorry about that. Another type of canvas work is a crewel work. Crewel work is similar, but unlike counted, so this is counted and cross stitch. So you're counting where you go and you're making a little X. Crewel work is just embroidery on this, usually done with a heavy yarn that doesn't bother with the counting. You just do your design that you want to do. Needlepoint, here's an example of my needlepoint. Okay, needlepoint is an all-over embroidery, okay, that usually works horizontally or diagonally so that what you end up with is a design on the back also. Now the stitch that I was doing on this one is called a brick stitch. And so it makes cross stitches and up and down stitches on the back, but on the front it makes diagonal stitches. Okay, and it's called a brickwork stitch. So this is. Now what you may have noticed is that they all involve Oh, I don't know that you can see. They all involve working with a frame, okay? So this one is on a frame that I can roll and unroll so that I can move where I'm working on this large canvas. This is about a 20-inch by 20-inch canvas to make a like a throw pillow, okay? This one is what we call an embroidery hoop. And this one is a oval. Obviously, I was working up and down with it. There's my needle even still left in it. Oh, sorry. Didn't realize I was out of the camera. There's my needle left in it. And these you tighten and loosen. Here, you can also, these aren't very expensive. They're balsa wood. You can also get them in plastic. This one even tells you how to open and close it. But all of them, no matter what, they have this ledge. So you know that's the bottom and this is the top. And they go on over your fabric. I'll show that here in a minute. And then you can close it and make it tight and pull your fabric tight. Okay, so let's talk a little bit. Embroidery was originally done by hand, but it can be done by machine. This is embroidery that's done by machine. Most patches that you purchase have been done by machine. This is a fairly new handkerchief, one that you could go to the store and buy now. This is actually an antique handkerchief. And this embroidery stitch here, the little flowers and vines, were done by hand. And so you see there are large parts of the thread, the yarn, the embroidery floss, that are sitting just loose on the back here. You notice you didn't see that on the back of the cross stitch or the needle point. I don't think I showed you the back of the cross stitch. You tend not to have a whole lot of loose threads because you're making those little X's, and so your threads just run in the back. It's not nearly as pretty as the front where the X's are. Okay. You can also, this one is done by hand. This is an antique pillowcase that was hand stitched. This is more like crewel work because the yarns are thicker. They're not as lightweight. It's also done with the same color. So it's white yarn on white fabric. But you can tell when you flip it over and you look at the back that this was done by hand and not done by sewing machine. Sewing machine tends to look like a sewing machine zigzag stitch. Okay. But there are special machines that actually do embroidery stitches. So this is one. So it's not just a zigzag stitch, and it really fills in. You can see that bobbin thread here on the back. The bobbin thread on all of these is white, but the top thread in your sewing machine is the color that you see on the front side. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do a freehand embroidery. So what do you need to do a freehand embroidery? You have a couple of options here. You can start, let me get all these out of the way, with just a piece of fabric that's about 8 inches by 8 inches. Or if you choose, you could do a piece of embroidery on a face mask. When I was in high school, I used to embroider the back pocket on my jeans a lot, or sometimes you might do up the side of a pair of pants or something like that. So for this project, I am going to just use a piece of fabric. You will need a hoop, an embroidery hoop, all right? This is important how you use the embroidery hoop. So I put the bottom with the ledge on it underneath. I set my fabric over top. It's going to hold the fabric tight. You may have seen some people do Christmas ornaments like this, and they just never take them off. They do this, and it's pulling that like a drum. It's like the head of a drum. Okay, it's nice and tight. If I want it tighter, I can just pull on my fabric. The problem is, I don't want to pull on the diagonal because that'll stretch my fabric. I want to pull on the top and bottom and side to side. And then I can just tighten it up. And as soon as I tighten it up, it'll be nice and tight. And that's going to make it easier for me to sew than if I try to sew with it just loose. Sewing with it loose is not a good idea. Okay, if you're trying to do embroidery and you don't have a hoop, your fabric is going to move. You're going to get this corner sewn in there. It's just not a lot of fun. So take the time and effort to go purchase a small embroidery hoop. So what I recommend is that you have, if you're going to do just a piece of fabric, if you have a piece of fabric 8 inches by 8 inches, and you have a hoop that's at least 4 to 6 inches round, okay, and they sell them that way. The plastic ones are a little more expensive. I would buy just one of the inexpensive wooden ones. Okay, if you're a real shopper, you might find them at Goodwill sometimes, or those kinds of stores. All right, so now we have to decide, what are we going to put on? I know I have it. There it is. All right, so on D2L, I have some designs that you can choose from. Now, I want you to keep it simple, but you could do something as simple as a butterfly. You could do a flower if you want to. You could do something, if you wanted to, on a mask. You could put Black Lives Matter. You could do your initials. You could say the word peace. The reason I don't have the word peace written here is because peace has a lot more letters in it. P-E-A-C-E. That's 5 letters. 5 letters is a whole lot more than 3 when you're having to hand sew it. So think about, keep it simple. Keep it very simple. This tulip right here is lovely. It's very simple. The rose is a little more complicated. If I decide to do this, I'll show you how to make that into fewer petals, so it's a little less work, okay? I'm probably going to do the butterfly. But let's talk about how to get our design onto our fabric, okay? Now, if I'm going to do this piece of fabric, I could just take a pencil or an ink pen, and I could just freehand a butterfly. I could just say, I want my butterfly to be this big. Okay, you're starting to see how that butterfly, there's the center of my butterfly. I'm going to give it some antenna, and then I'll have this side. I'm just going to rough it in. I could draw it better if I really wanted to, but I'm going to let the sewing do that. So I'll have a wing and a wing, a wing and a wing. I'll do a different color in the center, like almost more like a moth. So say I could do the wings in pink, and I could do a yellow dot here, and then I'll have the body, which can be maybe a brown, and then some antenna I can do in black, and then maybe I'll do a outline of some sort around the whole thing, maybe in black. You could do a ladybug this way, right? So as long as I can see it, I'm good to go, right? Now, I could use this design, however, I can't see it to trace it up. So how do I get a design that I want onto my fabric? Well, we have what's called tracing paper in the costume shop, and it's like old-fashioned copy paper that you used on a typewriter. And what it is it's wax on one side, and you can put this down and just draw, and the wax from that paper will transfer to your paper. I've also done it if I had a lighter colored fabric. I could use graphite paper. Graphite paper is basically tracing paper. Here I go. Pull some out here. So this side is benign, okay? It has nothing on it. But this side, you can see I've used this one. It's got lots of pencil marks on it. This side will write. So if I, here's an example, put it here, and I use my pencil, it will leave a mark. So if I put my design, I've got too many things going on this desk. So if I put my design on top of that and trace it, I'm just going to do part of it, like so, and then I move it, my design is traced onto my piece of paper. Can you see that? There you go. The light was bad for that. So you can see the graphite paper has been used quite a bit because I use it for transferring things, particularly when I'm doing watercolor painting and such. Okay, so another way that you can transfer is if you have a light colored fabric. So with a light colored fabric, I can just lay this on top here and I can go, oh, there's the outline of my butterfly. Got that in the wrong place, so you can't really see me doing that. And I can trace that butterfly. This one will be different. There's the body. Still want antenna. Right? Whoops. And there is my butterfly. So if you have this, now I picked, you can print whatever you want and whatever font you want to use, but I used this one because I like, it's got a line over here and a blank space. Notice it's got a line with a blank space in between. So I could choose to print this out larger if I wanted. This is a good size to put on a face mask. I could do the outside line in one color and the fat line in another color, because I could use two different stitches for them. Or I could do the blank space in between in one color, so I could have sort of a highlight color and a shadow color if I wanted to. You will need to use 3 stitches, 3 different stitches. And we're going to go over in the next 2 lectures, I'm going to go over 3 to 4 different kinds of stitches so that you can decide what stitches you want to use. All right? So your task for this week, for this part of the lecture, is to pick out your fabric or your mask or pair of jeans, whatever you're going to do your piece of embroidery on. Decide on your pattern. You're like, I'm going to do this rose and I'm going to do it on the side of my jeans. And you need to get that transferred onto whatever you're going to. Now you could always say, you know what, I want to do a flower and I want my flower to look like this. And I'm going to add a couple of leaves to my flower. So you can freehand it if you want. If you feel confident, I would freehand it. That is not a problem at all. As long as that fits inside the frame that you buy. So whatever hoop that you buy, don't draw, oh, I got a little close to the edges here. That's going to make me a little nervous because if I'm going to sew right there, I don't want it too close to this edge here. So if I were doing that for real, I would probably, tighten it down, do it a little further away from the edge of the fabric. And I just tighten that down, pull it taut, get my drum head going here. See, it's so close to the edge that I don't have any fabric there. I can pull out to make my drum head tight. Got to keep that drum head tight so that I can get in there. And then when you go to the store and you buy your hoop, I want you to figure out what colors do I want. I really do think I'm going to do a butterfly. Look, my blue, the blue here and this purple don't even show on here. But these colors look good on here. These two, the pinks, the oranges, and the greens look good on this fabric. This lavender reads a little bit on this fabric. Anything else? I've got some good colors. Yeah, if I use this blue, it's really not going to show on this fabric. So you might take what you're going to embroider on to the store with you. So you don't buy a color. I already had this color, so that's why it's here. You don't buy a color. You will need at least one color. I would recommend you buy 2 to 3 colors. You don't have to do all 3 stitches in different colors. But say I wanted to do a filler stitch with this color and do my outline with this color, okay? But then I could also use this color to do some detail work inside this color. So it would be two colors on the navy blue, but you'd be able to see those two colors. Or I might go a little more dramatic with my colors and use the orange and red as my two colors and my green as my outline. Or maybe I'll go with the light blue on my dark blue fabric. Okay, so it's up to you, the design you choose to do. Are you going to freehand your design? Are you going to copy a design? Are you going to print out a word? Are you going to copy it directly or freehand it onto your fabric, and what colors you're going to do? But that is your task, your fabric, your hoop, your design, and your threads. Okay? And then your needle, you can use just a regular old needle. You don't need a special needle. But the needles do tend to be a little larger because we're going to get into talking about how to work with the floss. And so you need a slightly larger eye here. But as long as you have a needle threader, one of those little metal needle threaders I've been showing you how to use, you'll be good to go. These are super easy to thread when you use a needle threader. All right, so we'll have 2 lectures over different types of stitches. And then our 4th lecture in this module will actually be me live on Zoom. And you can log in if you want. You don't have to. And I will answer your questions. I'll try to correct something that maybe you're doing wrong, which is why it's not working for you. Or I'll try to explain it maybe in a different way so it makes better sense for you. So that one is a chance for you to actually talk to me. Now, don't forget, you can email me at any time. We can set up an individual Zoom meeting at any time. You're not on your own on any of these projects. Give me a call, shoot me an email. We will set something up. That is not a problem. All right. So that is your task to be ready for our next lecture. Have a great day.